Saving America one entrepreneur at a time. It's the Biz Wrap Podcast with your host, Michael Manahan. The show that celebrates small business and entrepreneurs. It's Biz Wrap Radio with your host, small businessman, educator, and author, Michael Manahan. And welcome to Biz Wrap Radio. I'm your host, Michael Manahan. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we've got a wonderful show lined up for you today. We've got an in-studio guest here to talk to us about how you can help your business and maybe make some more money, run your business a little more effectively, or perhaps get your new startup business off the ground. This is Biz Wrap Radio, which is the show all about small business and entrepreneurs. And here at Biz Wrap Radio, we are fighting for entrepreneurs. We're helping you maneuver the challenges of running a small business, the government regulations, the taxes, the big corporations that are all out to make it far more difficult for you to operate your small business. If you listen to Biz Wrap Radio, you'll come up with some ideas, thoughts, suggestions that could perhaps help you run your business and help you run your business more profitably. Well, I've got in the studio a very interesting guest. His name is Joe Bergin, and Joe is a certified mentor with the SCORE program. That's SCORE. Now, the SCORE program is something that's supported by the Small Business Administration. It's been around for almost 50 years. According to their website, they've helped 10 million entrepreneurs over the last 50 years. In 2012 alone, they helped 37,000 small businesses. SCORE currently engages 13,000 working and retired professionals who basically help small businesses, giving them advice, talking to them about their business plans, their strategies, their marketing, their websites. And the SCORE counselors, as they're called, provide this service for free. So we're really big at Biz Wrap Radio on education. You need to reach out, whether it's reading books, whether it's talking to other professionals, whether it's going on websites. You need to educate yourself. You cannot run an effective small business in a vacuum. And SCORE certainly is one of the ways you could do that. So, Joe, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mike.
I'm really excited to have you here because you're not only a SCORE what you call certified mentor, but you yourself are a small business person.
That's right.
And now, what kind of a small business do you own?
At the moment, I own a UPS store and have some online businesses.
Okay. And then at one point in time, you also owned like a wine bar, correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so you're like one of these serial entrepreneurs. You're doing a bunch of different things. But you didn't start out doing that when you were 20 years old.
No, I was an officer in the Royal Air Force back in England, and I always wanted to have two parts of my life, one being the officer in the force, and the second to be an entrepreneur somewhere in the world.
You know, this is very common. We find a lot of people who come out of the military, come out of law enforcement, where you tend to have a career that's 20 years or maybe 25 years, and then, you're put out to pasture, if you will. A lot of those people, they're maybe in their late 40s, maybe early 50s, they become entrepreneurs and start businesses.
Mike, I wouldn't say put out to pasture. I left at 40 of my own volition. I could have continued for a full career commission, but I really wanted to do two major things in life. And to take a leap out to another country and also be an entrepreneur was a really exciting step forward.
Well, what I think is really great is that you're not only an entrepreneur, but you've obviously in the period you've been an entrepreneur, you've learned an awful lot about what it takes to run and operate a small business, and you've actually volunteered with the SCORE organization to help other people who are trying to get their businesses started and give them the advice and the counsel that you've learned through probably, in many cases, a lot of hard work and trial and error.
I think the irony is that I've made a lot of mistakes. And most people do, and if you're trying to do something that you've never done before, you will make mistakes, and that's okay. What I'm trying to do is help people not make some of the same mistakes that I've made. And a classic one would be for a person who has a retail business that needs a storefront, is to pick a great location. And I didn't do that. I came from 5,000 miles away, and that was kind of tricky. So my first business was not a good location. It was not a good business.
And that seems like such a simple thing, but entrepreneurs make simple, classic mistakes time and time and time again. And I think, the entrepreneur, he's so wrapped up in wanting to get his business off the ground. He so believes in the product or the service that he or she is providing that you can make simple mistakes. And sometimes letting an expert like Joe look at things from the outside very quickly, that expert can pick up where you're going wrong and how you can tweak your business to increase the chances of success. Now, Joe, if somebody is interested in getting a score counselor, what's the website they should go to?
Well, the website is score.gov. Now, what you would do is localize it to where you live. In our case, it's score LA for Los Angeles.gov.
Okay, so they probably just go in and do a Google search, SCORE, Score Counselors or Score Organization. You'd be able to find it. I was on one of the websites. It was SCORE.org, so score.org. But there it is. Again, it's Mike Manahan here on BizRap Radio, and we're talking to Joe Bergin, who is a score counselor. And maybe he can, I'm actually looking at your card here, Joe. It's right, scorela.org. So there you have it. Now, Joe, tell us about some of the companies that you've helped personally over the last few years.
Well, there's a whole variety, and when you say companies, it's mainly individuals coming to me saying, they want a change of life, they're considering another business, and they're very unsure about the way forward. Or I've had 3 different ones this week who have a business in mind and a location in mind, and they're showing me the profit and loss statements and saying, do you really think this is worth it? And it's great to be able to sit down and analyze what parts of the profit centers are really the important ones to focus on, and then to look very carefully at where they're going to do business. So I'm able to look at the numbers and start to help them make interpretations, and then go back and do a bit more spade work.
Now, what do you see with the people that come to you? They've got an idea for a business. Where do you see the biggest challenges? What are most of them not doing well?
I don't think there's one thing, Mike. I think it's many things they need to consider. And when you're buying a business, you're taking out a big loan, maybe you're quitting your job, there's an awful lot of pressure on you, a lot of tensions, anxieties, and pulls. And what it can do is confuse some of the simple aspects they need to consider. So when you sit down with somebody like myself, we have a chance to declutter and get them straight into focus on the things that are really, really important.
So you're like a sounding board for them. Do most of them come to you at this stage? Have they actually got a business plan put together, or are they kind of business plan stage?
An awful lot of them never heard of a business plan, or they have. But
oh my gosh! I mean, they're coming here and they're actually thinking of starting a business, and they haven't even figured out you need a business plan of some sort.
I'm serious. An awful lot of them have never really got their head around a business plan. And one of the first things I'll say is, if you put it down in writing, it crystallizes your thoughts, and we can start to look at the weaknesses and the areas you need to address. And all these templates are available on the Score SPA website. So once they've written things down, it's much easier to start to put the things in order and start to prioritize and look for the areas of weakness.
Yeah, that is so important. Over the years, I've worked with many businesses and even businesses that were up and running and operating, in some cases for many years, and very often they would say, well, why do we need a business plan? We know where our customers are. We know what we're planning on doing. We know that we know how much money we have. We just get busy and do it. But really, I like the way you put it. By putting it down in writing, you start to crystallize what your thinking is about your business, and it allows you potentially to find some holes or things you hadn't actually thought of.
Exactly, Mike. The template is so well designed, it covers just about all the important aspects you need to review. So when it asks you the question, if you don't have an answer, then you really got to start going back to basics and putting it together.
Joe, we're closing up on the end of the first segment here. Can you stay with us for another segment?
Absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. So we're in the studio here with Joe Bergin. Joe is a certified mentor with the SCORE counseling program. They've helped literally thousands and thousands of small businesses get started, run more efficiently, run more effectively. If you're an entrepreneur and you're in need of some counseling, check out the SCORE organization. They might be able to help you. It's Biz Rap Radio. Your host, Michael Manahan, and we will be back right after these messages from our sponsors. And welcome back to Biz Rap Radio. It's your host, Michael Manahan, in the studio with Mr. Joe Bergin, certified mentor with the SCORE Counseling Program. And if you missed the first segment of the show, SCORE Counseling is something that's supported by the Small Business Administration. It's been around for about 50 years. They supposedly have helped somewhere around 10 million entrepreneurs over 50 years with their businesses. According to their website, 37,000 businesses in 2012. They claim to have 13,000 working and retired professionals who are there to help small businesses and entrepreneurs get their businesses started or operate their businesses. Now, Joe, you've helped an awful lot of businesses, but do you just help any business, or does the system somehow allocate people by specialties or expertise? How does all that work?
Well, what you do, Mike, is if you go onto the SCORE website, local to your area, like in ours, it's SCORE LA, you can meet the mentors. That's the actual tab on the website, and it shows each of us who operate in the area and what our background and experience is. There's also a tab where you can say, click on accounting, if that's what you're looking for, and that will flash up those mentors who have nominated an experience or an expertise in accounting for you.
So then, do you pick the mentor you want, or do you? How does if I go onto the SCORE website, I want some help with my business. How am I hooked up and matched with the mentor that is going to help me?
Okay, so for example, this week, a couple of people have come to me directly because they know I have a franchise in the UPS store and understand packing and shipping as a small business. So two of them emailed me and said, "Hey, Joe, could you help me? I want to buy a postal independent business. I'd like some guidance." And that's perfect. So if it was something else, say they wanted some advice about running a hotel, don't come to me. And sometimes people will contact me and say, one gentleman wanted some advice about some serious auditing, and I said, look, I'm really sorry, this is not my area of expertise, but if you go back to the mentors and click on auditing, you should find the expert you need.
Okay, so you can search for somebody who's got the type of expertise you need to help your particular business situation. Now, as a SCORE counselor, you do this for free, right? You don't get paid. There's no charge to the client.
There's no charge whatsoever. This is done as a labor of love. You know, I really enjoy helping people. I don't want to make the mistakes I make. So what I do is I say, look, meet me in Starbucks at 10 o'clock. I'll be wearing a blue shirt, and you've seen my picture. Come and sit down. And we just sit and I listen, ask a few questions, and they look for some guidance and just to share and unburden.
So it's also somewhat of an informal meeting. It's not like you go into a big conference room and these people have to put on some presentation in front of a bunch of stuffed shirts type of thing.
It is not intimidating at all. It's just like a friend meeting you for coffee. Nice and casual. There's no format. It's just a chat, and we see where it leads.
Well, that's got to be so valuable to businesses, because I know I have started a number of businesses over the years. And I'm in my late 50s. I'm still learning. There's so much to learn. And when you have somebody who's already done it, who's already gone through it, and is willing to share their experiences with you, that is just invaluable. But I would almost have a question. Why is it that every friggin' small business isn't going on the SCORE website and trying to see if they can find somebody to help them out?
Well, I honestly, Mike, I was out in this country 5 years before I heard of SCORE.
So maybe part of it is because a lot of people don't know about it.
Yes.
Okay, well we're here spreading the word. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're thinking of starting a business, if you're already running a business maybe, but you've got some issues, some problems, you want to expand your business, you want some sage advice from somebody who has already been there, who's done it, and by the way, from somebody who doesn't have any vested interest. And Joe, I don't know if you've run into this, but one of the problems I know a lot of small businesses have is everybody they ask for advice has a vested interest. Their accountant, their attorney, often paid consultants, suppliers, even customers. People have a vested interest, and often you'll get advice that is skewed. It's skewed towards those people who have a vested interest because they don't want to lose you as a client. The attorney doesn't want to say, I'm really not good at this, go to somebody else, or doesn't want to get in a position where you could come back and accuse him of giving you bad advice. So as a consequence, a lot of small businesses are relying upon people who really aren't giving them very good advice.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Mike. And when you do your initial training as a SCORE mentor, one of the first things you sign is a code of conduct, and it says you're not here to get any kickbacks or refer your friends or take any advantage whatsoever. So I never ever make a referral or recommendation for a particular person or form of assistance. I have no horse in the race. I'm purely there to help.
Which means you can be completely honest. If it's a bad idea, if the financials suck, if he's up for stiff competition, you can be honest with him and with him or her. Obviously, by the way, that brings up a question. Do you get a lot of lady entrepreneurs?
I would say 50-50.
50-50. That's great news because I'm the biggest believer that we need to spread this entrepreneurship around. By the way, if you just joined us, BizRap Radio here. You're listening to Michael Manahan. BizRap Radio is the show that is all about small business and entrepreneurs. And we are here in the studio with Joe Bergin. Joe is a certified mentor with the SCORE program. That's the Small Business Administration program, sponsored program that puts executives and professionals in touch with people who are trying to start businesses, small business owners, and gives them advice and suggestions and ideas about their business. And Joe, before we were talking a little bit about what kind of advice you actually do give to to one of these entrepreneurs. What would you say? What kind of advice do you actually give them?
Mike, I don't really give advice at all. What I do is I try and elicit information from them to see what they don't know or where they're heading, and see by probing, by eliciting, if I can draw their attention to areas where I think maybe they're deficient or need to give some more focus. Maybe they need to create a business plan or start to look more carefully at some of the numbers involved. I would never dream of saying, hey, this is going to work or this is not. It's the conclusion they have to draw themselves. I have no right to make any comment like that. So all the guidance you'll get from me comes in the way of asking questions and nudging them in the right direction.
Gotcha. So you wouldn't say, "Hey, this is a dumbass idea. This is never going to work." But you might say, "Gosh, you might want to do a little more market research, or you might want to try to expand your marketing channels. So, have you considered maybe including this in your marketing program, or have you considered including that in your marketing program?" That would be kind of the thing that you would do.
Yes, I kind of give them a little bit of homework. Say, "Okay, Jim, could you pull the business plan together, and when you've got it, email it to me and I'll work through. Next time we meet, we'll have a bit more of a source document from which to work." Or maybe go and have a look closely at these numbers, or go and visit a few more locations.
So really, you're kind of a bit of a I'm almost, as it says here, you're a mentor, a certified mentor. So you're helping the person along, helping the entrepreneur develop their thinking, their critical thinking, if you will, so they can look at what they're doing, perhaps from a broader or a wider perspective. That kind of maybe describe it?
I think a lot of things unravel when they talk and sort of vocalize exactly what they're thinking. They're going through so many different things when they're taking out a business or reviewing it that they become cluttered. So just that conversation starts to highlight in their minds the areas that they have been worrying about all the time but weren't able to pin it down.
Gotcha.
And as I elicit and probe, it starts to come together and we start to say, oh, okay, now we need to consider this angle or that angle.
So, is there any? And of course, we know there's confidential. You're by the way completely confidential. And somebody comes to you, they don't need to be worried that you're going to be discussing their particular business issues or problems with anybody else.
No, it's utterly confidential.
Utterly confidential, and of course, the other thing you would never do, obviously, would be to look at somebody's business plan and say, "Hey, that's a great idea. I think I'll go out and do that myself."
Well, not at all. No, I mean, it's fascinating to see what people do, but many of them make me sign a letter of non-disclosure, and
right.
that's fine too. I'll sign anything you like, but it's between the two of us.
Gotcha. But is there just within the realm of what you're able to tell us? What's the most bizarre thing that you've experienced as a SCORE certified mentor?
Nothing bizarre at all, Mike. They're all much of a muchness. They're all parallel. There's lots of different angles people take, and I really don't want to discuss those individually. They're all fascinating. They're all great people who are striving to go forward, and I admire and respect what they're trying to achieve.
Mm-hmm. And is there an age range? Do we have? Is it mostly older folks who are looking at second careers, or is it young bucks right out of college? What do you find in terms of the demographics?
The vast majority of them are middle-aged people. They've had a career, or they're worried about their corporate job and want to have some sort of lifestyle business. But I have had 18-year-olds really full of energy and drive and wanting to move forward and don't want a conventional job.
Well, this is great because we're huge supporters of entrepreneurs at BizRap Radio. I mean, we really do believe entrepreneurship is where it's at. It is small businesses that drive the economy, small businesses that typically bring us out of the recession, small businesses that employ most of the people in the country. And small business ownership also gives you the freedom and the luxury and the independence that you just don't have if you're out there working for some huge corporation with all its rules and regulations. So if you're thinking about starting a business, if you've just started a business and you feel you need some help, definitely contact SCORE. Meet with one of their certified mentors. Maybe you'll meet with Joe, and use them as a sounding board to refine your own plan of how you're going to run your business and how you're going to make profits. Joe, we're right at the end of this segment. I do want to thank you for joining me in the studio today.
No problem, Mike. It's been a pleasure.
And hopefully we'll have you back at some point in time. It's Joe Bergin, a certified mentor, SCORE counselor. Definitely check it out, score.org. And this is, of course, BizRap Radio. Your host, Michael Manahan, and we will be back right after these messages. Welcome back to BizRap Radio. It's your host, Michael Manahan. Thank you so much for joining us. If you missed the last segment of the show, very interesting discussion with Joe Bergin. Joe is a certified mentor with the SCORE program. SCORE is the program that is sponsored by the SBA, the Small Business Administration, and basically what it does is it provides advisory services to entrepreneurs and small businesses. So it's an opportunity if you're struggling with launching a new business, or you've got a business right now but you're having a few problems or issues. Maybe you need some help, you need some advice, and maybe you don't have a lot of money to pay for it. SCORE provides their counselors free of charge, and you can go to their website, scorela.org is the one for the Los Angeles area, and you can look up the counselors by their expertise and choose one that has experience in a field in which you're struggling. So, for instance, if you perhaps were interested in buying a franchise, you could go and find a counselor who's an expert in franchising. So that's just as an example of the type of assistance you can get with SCORE. I want to talk now about the 1%. And, BizRap Radio, we're the show about entrepreneurs and small businesses. The concept of our show is to provide ideas, suggestions, get you thinking about your business, how you can develop and implement strategies to improve profitability, to grow your business, to get the money you need for your business. And we're not really a political show per se. We don't favor any particular political party, but we're certainly pro-business, and we are pro-capitalist system, the capitalist system, and we are also against a lot of the ridiculous and foolish government regulations that burden small businesses. We're going to talk a little bit more about some of those in the next segment, but I came across a very interesting article. The article is by Joel Kotkin. He is the Roger Hobbs Fellow in Urban Futures at Chapman University. And actually, I'm going to try and see if I can get him on the show. I'd love to have a discussion with him. But his article is very interesting. It's titled Dawn of the Age of Oligarchy, the Alliance Between Government and 1%. And I found the article extremely interesting because a lot of what we've been hearing from our government lately is that somehow this 1%, these very rich people who seem to acquire most of the wealth in this country are somehow at the root of our troubles and our ills in this country. But the article really exposes the fact that the government is in bed with this 1%. Really, it is a collusion, if you will, between the government and the very wealthy to orchestrate strategies and policies that really are designed to help the people in government stay in power and to help the people with money acquire more money. And just as an example out of the article, Joel says, there is a diminished role for small business, greater concentration of financial assets, and he claims a troubling decline in home ownership. On a cultural level, there is a general malaise about the prospect for upward mobility for future generations. Now, of course, that really was, and I think continues to be, the American dream. I know some people have somehow perverted that American dream into the American dream is to have a home in the suburbs, with a white picket fence type of thing. But the original American dream really revolved around breaking the traditional class and social structures that existed in society. And if you go back years and years ago, there was very little opportunity for upward mobility. If you were a truck driver, your parents were truck drivers, you'd be a truck driver. If your parents worked on a farm, you'd work on a farm. If your parents lived in poverty, you'd live in poverty. And the people who lived at the top of the hill or on the good side of town, they were fairly well entrenched. There really wasn't any upward mobility in terms of social structure. And here in the United States, we changed all of that. Immigrants from originally from Europe and then from other parts of the world, from all over the world, came to the United States. They came here with absolutely nothing other than desire to work hard and to improve their lot. And for many of them, the goal was that their children would live better than they did, that the children would be able to move up in the economic standing through the hard work of the parents. And we have certainly seen that. I mean, we look at so many of the immigrants that came here, even recently, the boat people that came here after, the Vietnam debacle. They came here with absolutely nothing, and here down in Southern California, they're an important and vibrant part of the Southern California community. Many of them are business owners. They own beautiful homes down in the Orange County area. So that really was what the American dream was all about, and to some degree, I'm a product of that very American dream. I mean, my father dropped out of high school. He never graduated. He went to work in a sawmill bagging sawdust for 25 cents an hour. But his goal was to earn enough money so that his children could go to college, get an education, and be economically better off than he was. And even though all of the kids in our family didn't go to university, we have 5 children in my family. 2 of us went to and got college educations. The other 3 did not. We were all able to develop expertise in careers that allowed us to do better than what our parents had done. And that was the whole idea of this American dream, the idea that you could come here if you worked hard. Not necessarily you would have an easy life of it, but your children would. They could move up the economic and social ladders based upon hard work, based upon being financially and fiscally responsible, and also based upon getting an education. But apparently that has changed, and part of it, according to this article by Joel Kotkin, is the result of this collusion between the oligarchy, the very well-to-do, the 1%, and the federal government. So it's not the federal government against the 1% trying to help you and me, the average Joe out on the street. Quite the contrary, it's the federal government colluding with the 1% to basically X us out of the game, and that's particularly with respect to small businesses. And he cites a number of examples, and as an example, one he cites is under the banner of environmentalism, green cronyism has helped fatten the bank accounts of investment bankers and tech moguls at great public expense. Yeah, there's a lot of money being put into green energy and green technology by our government. And by the way, I think it's a good thing to support green technologies and green energy. We don't want to be polluting the environment. We want energy sources that are renewable. But the bulk of the dollars, they're not going to some little entrepreneur trying to build something in his garage. They're going to fat cat investment bankers. They're going to big business people. And in many cases, the money is being spent completely irresponsibly, and very often the money is nothing more than payback for political campaign contributions and support during election time. So this is kind of what we're up against. I mean, large financial institutions have benefited greatly from the regulations that, guaranteed their survival, while small financial institutions are die on the vine. And, we have this thing, these banks are too big to fail, but we continue to let them to grow. And, of course, we've talked earlier on our show about Chase Bank and how it's arbitrarily going out and closing down bank accounts of small businesses, cutting off their credit cards, making it more difficult for them to do business. So, really, is it the 1% that's to blame, or is it the government to blame? Where do we place blame on this? If you've got some thoughts and ideas, let me know. It's Mike Manahan at BizRap Radio, and we are going to break for a commercial. We'll be right back after these messages. And welcome back. It's your host, Michael Manahan. This is BizRap Radio, the show all about small business and entrepreneurs. We were talking in the last segment about the 1%, this dreaded evil 1% that apparently is the cause of all of our problems. But there's this article that I came across by Joel Kotkin, who's a Roger Hobbs Fellow at Chapman University, and he paints an entirely different picture. He really claims that this 1% is really in collusion with our federal government in a campaign that is really all about sustaining power within the federal government and at the same time enriching this oligarchy, if you will, this group of very rich people and business elites at kind of the top of the political spectrum. And as an example, a recent Mercatus Center report found that politically connected banks received larger bailouts from the Federal Reserve during the financial crisis than financial institutions that spent less or nothing on lobbying. Another study by two University of Michigan economists found a strong correlation between receiving TARP assistance and a company's degree of connectedness to members of Congress, of congressional finance committees. So basically what they're saying here in this article is that if you're going to get handouts from the government, whether it's green energy handouts, whether it's bailouts for the banks, whether it's TARP money, you need to be politically connected. You need to be contributing, making political campaign contributions, and have your lobbyists in Washington. And if that may be the way the system works, but is really that the government defending us and saving us from the 1%, or is it more that really what the government is doing? Really, what the government is doing is colluding with the 1%. Now, there's kind of a I would call it a misbelief out there that there's kind of the Republicans are pro big business and the Democrats are for the little guy. But in fact, these oligarchs, the very rich people in this country, the people who had the big corporations, the biggest corporations, and the ultra rich, really have lined up on the side of Obama from the very start. As one of at his first inaugural notes one sympathetic chronicler, the biggest problem for donors was to find sufficient parking space for their private jets. So we really don't have a government that's out there fighting us, fighting that 1% on our behalf. What we really have is a government that is colluding with the 1%, and of course that is bad for small business. And a lot of the difficulty for small business really can be traced to the expansion of regulatory power by the government. According to a 2010 report by the government itself, the Small Business Administration, small businesses spend one-third more time per employee than larger firms do on completing forms and meeting and adhering to federal dictates. And, of course, small businesses and self-employed professionals have very much been impacted by Obamacare. While at the same time, small businesses are being impacted by Obamacare, the large businesses, many of them are being exempted from the requirements of Obamacare. So it just really doesn't seem right. Really what we got going on is here crony capitalism. That's I've heard other people use that phrase, but really what it is the people who are politically connected get the government contracts, and as a result, a lot of people in this country don't believe that we really have a free market, so we really don't have free markets in many cases, which makes it even more difficult for us to start businesses. And, of course, one of the concerns is, well, what about our children? Will they have equal economic opportunity? And of course, the belief here at BizRap Radio is that you will have less economic opportunity because these regulations restrict the ability of people to get into business and to and of course, business is the primary method by which we move people up in the economic and social structure in society. Yes, you can go to work for somebody and do that, but if you take any huge corporation, you've got a lot of workers at the lower and the mid levels, and you've only got a couple of people at the top. But so the way really to push people from the lower economic stratum up to the top part of the economic stratum is to have those people running businesses. But we've made it increasingly difficult for small business people to survive. And so how do we achieve that? It just really doesn't make any sense. So again, we've got the government in bed with the 1%. It's not like the government's against the 1%. They're actually in bed with the 1%. and really collectively waging a campaign that is to the disadvantage of most small businesses. And we're going to talk more about that in future shows. Again, I'll see if I can try and get this Joel Kotkin on the radio one of these days. An ongoing feature, this is Biz Rap Radio, by the way, if you just joined us. I'm your host, Michael Manahan. This is the show all about small business and entrepreneurs. And one of our ongoing features has been this discussion of minimum wages. And we came up with a list of 10 reasons why minimum wage are a bad idea. We've covered 8 of those reasons on our previous shows. So let's finish off with the last 2 reasons. The minimum wages ignore the entry-level argument. Historically, the people at the lowest level of the job market, what we call entry-level positions, they pay less. They're designed to pay less, and the reason is because there needs to be an incentive for people at the lowest level of those entry-level positions to improve their skills, to become more proficient, to get more of an education, and then to move up the ladder into higher-paying jobs. Now, if you take the people at the entry level and you move their wages up, what you're going to do is you're going to remove the incentive for people to improve and better themselves. And a perfect example of that is in many union environments where union workers actually refuse to be promoted to management. So as an example, we have an ever-increasing number of people who are making minimum wage and using entry-level positions really as a lifetime career. And that's not what entry-level positions were supposed to do. The final reason why minimum wages are not a good idea is really they provide for political opportunism. I mean, politicians love minimum wages for 2 reasons. First, they use it as a vote-getting mechanism. After all, if you promise people that, hey, we're going to get you more money, we're going to make that employer pay you more bucks, good chances you're going to get some of those people to vote for you. The second reason is, and this is one the politicians never talk about, the government gets a huge chunk of those increases in wages. Don't forget, even people at the minimum wage level are still paying Medicare. They're paying Social Security. Their employers are matching those payments. So the employer has to pay more to the government. The individuals have to pay more to the government. So when the government actually initiates an increase in minimum wages, it gets a whole bunch of additional money. And that's why the politicians love it, because for them it's like a payday. All of a sudden they've got more of your money and my money to spend. So political opportunism, not a good idea for minimum wage. It's Biz Rap Radio. I'm your host, Michael Manahan. I'm so glad you could join us today. We are coming to the end of the show. So thanks very much for joining us, and we will be back next week with another edition of Biz Rap Radio. It's your host, Michael Manahan. Thank you so much for joining us.